Lord.
Yes, sir.
So we just from discussing open-ended questions versus closed-ended questions. When we mentioned that open-ended questions provide um, participants with the option of saying things that they wouldn't say, or whereby closed-ended questions would not allow. So open-ended questions do supplement closed-ended questions. And I'm happy about the example which was given that they had a questionnaire which had closed-ended questions, and participants wanted to say more. This is why it's important that when you have a questionnaire, when you develop a questionnaire, you leave room, even at the end, for participants to be able to add on. There are quite a number of thoughts that may arise while answering those closed-ended questions. And we did indicate that there is some level of difficulty when it comes to analyzing or working around the open-ended questions as opposed to closed-ended questions. The open-ended questions provide more information, while the closed-ended questions provide less information. Yet closed-ended questions are easy to analyze as opposed to open-ended questions which needs you to be able to identify codes where you have to think a bit deeper in identifying the codes. What is it that they are saying through the answers in the open-ended questions? Now, when we look at choice and measurements of responses, a questionnaire, basically a questionnaire will have a possibility of 4 kinds of items. Okay, the measurement can be in 4. They are grouped into 2. One is categorical choices, and others are numerical choices. Under categorical, we have nominal and ordinal data. Under numerical, we have interval and ratio data. Are we together? There are 2 kinds of data. There's categorical and numerical. I'll call you back. I'm teaching. I'll call you back. No, are you able to get me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right. So I want you to get this correctly. I don't want to lose anybody. There's categorical data and there's numerical data. Categorical data, this is data which is in word form. Okay? For example, gender, it's male or female. Numerical data is that data which is numbers. For example, your age, 24, 28, and me, the oldest, 64. That's numerical data. Height is numerical data. Name of institution where you learn, it's categorical data. Are we together there before we go into more detail?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
So is ordinal under categorical?
Yes. So let me put it like this. Are you seeing the adjustments I'm making?
Yes.
I think this will be better. So there's categorical data, which can be broken down into nominal or ordinal. All right. And then there's numerical data, which can be either the interval or ratio. All questionnaires you can ever come across for studies which are quantitative. This is all that is there. Everything you see on the questionnaire can either be categorical or numerical. Okay, can I now move to the specifics? Under categorical, there's nominal and ordinal. Under numerical, there's interval and ratio. Can we go now into detail?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So nominal, these items, nominal data is where the item, under the item, there's words. The responses are words. Okay. For example, gender, male or female. Okay. Gender, it can be 3 or 6.5. Okay. Residential area, Foxdale, Roma, Chadley, Ibex, Matero, Emersdale, Sparta, Banana. Those are nominal responses. That's nominal data. Okay. Under nominal data, I want to introduce something extra. There's sometimes nominal data whereby the response can only assume 2 answers. For example, gender, it's male or female. It's only 2. According to the Zambian constitution, it's either you're male or you're female. Remember what I talked about culture earlier and economic and everything else, social issues. In other countries, gender is not only 2 options. It's more than that, way more than that. So in Zambia, it can only assume 2, which is male or female. This kind of nominal data is also called binary. This kind of data is also called binary. So when it is only 2 possible responses, then it's called binary. Okay. Other textbooks will use the term dichotomous. All right. Other textbooks will say dichotomous. Are we together? Please, if anything is not clear, do let me know. I don't want to leave anyone behind. Are we together?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So questions whereby it can either be yes or no, that is also binary, or dichotomous, that is another name. Then we go to ordinal. Like I said during our first lecture, that the beauty of epidemiology and research is that everything is just what it is, the way it has been written. So it makes things easier for us scientists, especially in epidemiology. All right, so then there's ordinal. So something that can make you remember what nominal is about, it's the N there and the M. These ones are also there when we write the word name, N-A-M-E. So nominal is about names, okay? The kind of dwelling, what kind of a house one stays in. Also, you have to name them. So that is also nominal. Ordinal, there's some kind of order. So look at the first three words. Ordinal, O-R-D. They are the first three words from the word order. So there's some kind of order. There's some kind of hierarchy. Okay? There's some kind of hierarchy. All right. I remember when we were in grade 5, our teacher would say, tall, taller, tallest. And we would all, in unison, say that rhyme. Tall, taller, tallest. Big, bigger, biggest. There's some kind of hierarchy there. Biggest is most huge. Bigger is a little more than big, and then big, bigger, biggest. So there is some kind of order. Okay. So social status, there is some kind of order. Okay. There's low class, middle class, high class. Yes, are we together? Social class, there is low class, middle class, and higher class. So that is ordinal data. It's words, it's names, it's categorical, but there's some kind of order. Okay? Education. There's order, right? Is there order in education? Is there a hierarchy?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. So there'll be primary education, junior secondary, senior secondary, college, university. Okay? Even when you go through a course, there's certificate, there's diploma, there's degree, there's master's, there's PhD, there's hierarchy. One thing which is distinct or which is different in ordinal as compared to if you have to look at numerical data is that the difference is not the same between the different categories. For example, the difference between primary education and secondary education is not the same difference between secondary education and college education. You cannot quantify the differences, or if you did quantify in terms of years, they are not the same. Okay, so that's the issue about order. Then numerical. When we come to numerical, remember I did say that all data can either be categorical or numerical. Now numerical, numerals from grade 4, it's about numbers. These are data whereby when you ask on a questionnaire, the answer is the number. I gave an example of age. I gave an example of height, weight. Okay. So numbers. So both interval and ratio data are numerical data. Now we're going to come to talk about the difference between interval data and ratio data. The main difference between these two is that with interval data, there is no absolute zero. What do we mean by no absolute zero? What do we mean no absolute zero? Okay, so when we say there's no absolute zero, it, it means that when the value is zero, it does not mean that there's nothing. When there's absolute zero, it means that zero means zero. Okay? I'll give an example. If in the classroom there is 0 students, it means that there's no student in there, in the classroom. That is common sense, right? Well, as with temperature, when we say the temperature is 0, does that mean that there is no temperature? It means that it's that cold. Okay? Are we together? The difference
Yes,
between the interval data and ratio data is that with interval data, there's no absolute zero, while as ratio data, there's absolute zero. That's the first thing. Any questions so far? Before I introduce something concerning ratio data.
So can you give another example of interval data?
So perhaps another example would be pressure. Temperature, the pressure can go beyond, can be less than 0. And that is what may even cause an implosion. We've heard about the implosion, the word implosion. 2 months ago, what happened? So interval, temperature, pressure would be another example. Ratio data, when there's 0, it means there's nothing. Any other questions? Any other questions?
Sorry, sir, I didn't get clearly the difference between ratio and interval in terms of no absolute and no absolute zero and absolute zero.
Okay, is there anybody who wants to try and explain to our colleague?
The way I've understood in terms of interval, that 0 doesn't mean like there is nothing. Like that's the example I gave for temperature, meaning if it's 0, that's the actual temperature. Then for the absolute 0, the one for the ratio, that's where it means that there is nothing.
Okay, good.
Yeah, just to add on to what Amanda has said. So like when we say there are like in a room, there are 0 people in that room, it literally means there is nothing.
Yeah. What about the balance in your account? What do you think?
It's absolute 0, sir.
All right, so it's that week before payday. So most of us, our accounts, Airtel Money, there's zero. So when there's zero, you can't even buy any airtime. Yes?
Yes.
It can become interval if that the company does allow you to overdraw. So they give you a 60 kwacha and then it becomes negative 60. In that case, it may be interval data. All right, so I'll ask questions to all of you. You need to tell me, okay, let me explain on counts and continuous data, then I can ask questions. So please be attentive. Ratio data, we've said that it's numerical, number one, and numerical because it's numbers. So that there's a difference between counts and continuous data. Counts and continuous data, they're all under ratio data. The difference is that with counts, we are counting. For example, the number of individuals attending this class is 11. Those are counts because I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 11 of you. Okay? Continuous data, it's that data that will assume decimal points. Okay? For example, in this class, I can't say that there are 8.5 students. Okay? It's actually 11 students. Those, or 10 students, those are counts. How many times an individual has been involved in an accident during a particular year, those are counts. It can be 1.5 times. In that year, either it was 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5. Okay? How many times garbage is collected in Ngombe? Those are counts. Is it 4 times a month? Is it twice a month? Is it once a month? Those are counts. Height, one can be maybe 1.34 meters. That's continuous data. Weight, it could be you weigh 67.9. Those are continuous data. Any questions on the difference between counts and continuous data? So in your test that we are going to have next week, I will give you different kinds of data, and you need to tell me what kind of data it is. And you need to provide me with all the detail. For example, if I ask about gender, you need to be able to tell me that gender is categorical, nominal, and binary. Okay, you must be able to give me all that. 1 point for each item provided. Okay. If I ask you about social status, you must be able to indicate that it's categorical ordinal data. If I ask you about weight, you must be able to tell me that it's numerical, racial, continuous data. All right? So I will need that detail. So how to obtain valid information? You need to ask purposeful questions The questions that will help you to answer what your topic is all about. Ask concrete questions. Don't ask questions which are not clear. Use time periods based on importance of the questions. So how you bring out the questions, there must be some kind of order. It shouldn't be haphazard. So when we talk about time periods, it's about when on the questionnaire, at what number, where do you place certain questions? Then you need to use conventional language, which means use language that people can understand, basic language. Use language which a grade 8 pupil can be able to understand. Okay? You can't use all those big terms that we use in environmental health to ask people that are running bars and running restaurants. You must be basic in the way you answer questions, in the way that you ask the questions. Are we together? Then you need to use complete questions. Are we there?
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay, so you need to use complete questions. Don't leave them hanging. Okay, use complete questions. Okay. So questions like the capital city of Zambia is, rather ask what is the capital city of Zambia. Avoid abbreviations. Not everybody will know. When you write WHO and you say, describe who, somebody may think of who as a person. Avoid abbreviations in your questionnaire. You may write IDSR, Integrated Disease Response, Surveillance and Response. You put IDSR, you and me will understand, will know what we're talking about because we're involved in all these COVID activities. But somebody out there will not understand what that is. So write those terms in full. Review questions with experts and potential respondents. If you have developed a questions for your questionnaire, give it to your supervisor or any other expert to have a look so that they can be able to give you advice. Use shorter questions. When you use shorter questions, it's easy for somebody to understand. Don't ask a question which is over 20 words long. By the time they're halfway, they can't remember where it started. Avoid double-barreled questions. Avoid questions whereby this one question is asking about two things. It should just be about one thing. Okay? Just ask one thing. They should just be able to answer one thing, not two under the same question. Avoid negative questions. Okay? Avoid negative questions. Okay? For example, you don't brush your teeth after every meal, yes or no? Okay? Rather ask, do you brush your teeth after every meal? So avoid negative questions. Adopt and adapt questions used successfully in other questionnaires. What I mentioned earlier, the best when you are going to write your proposal, look for a questionnaire that is standardized. Unless there's no standardized questionnaire, that's when you can develop one. At the level of degree, we don't expect you to do something completely new. We expect you to do a study that has been done before, though the context may be different. Okay? It could have been it could be a study that was done in Nigeria, done in South Africa, done in the US, and then you want it done here in Zambia. Okay, don't do something that your fellow student last year did. Copy and paste, you'll find yourself plagiarizing, and you have to repeat the whole course. You may be suspended for a whole year. Okay, so basically, that is all that we had today. Are there any questions concerning questions or questionnaires? Any question? Anything that you'd like me to re-emphasize? Are we there?
Yes.
Yes, sir, we are there.
All right, so Alfred, 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 I can ask a question here on types of data.
Yes, sir.
All right, so imagine that you have been tasked or you've won a consultancy with RATSA to look at hotspots along Great East Road where accidents occur. So you've been given the whole space from the roundabout in town where ZESCO is there up to their airport roundabout. So you find that where UNZA is, the University of Zambia, you identify it as a hotspot. So you do your research over a 1-month period, and then you need to report on the number of accidents that are taking place at that particular hotspot. So the number of accidents along Great East Road, the UNZA area, what kind of data is that?
It's numerical.
Yes, go on.
Numerical ratio counts.
Okay, so I give you 3 out of 3 for that.
It's numerical ratio counts.
Yes, so it's numerical, ratio, and counts. It's numerical because it will be a number. It's ratio because if there's 0, it means no accident has taken place at UNZA Great East Road. It counts because it can be 1.5, it can be 1.7 accidents. Okay, it's the number, it's the counts. So I will actually add one other word that also means counts. So other textbooks will use counts, others will say discrete. It's all the same. Okay? Discrete and counts, it's the same term. The way binary and dichotomous, it's the same. Okay? So, Amanda.
Yes, I can hear it.
So, voter registration status of students in the EH 515 class. Voter registration status Are you registered? So the question, are you registered as a voter? What kind of a variable, what kind of responses, what kind of data is that? Amanda? Amanda has disappeared.